Okay, welcome to everybody who's here with us for Alabama Blue School for November 2023. Alabama Blue School is a program of monthly online trainings that are for and by local Democratic organizers in Alabama. So this is a place where we get together and learn from each other, how we can be good Democrats and spread our message to our neighbors. And we share resources and ideas. And this program is put on by the United Democratic Clubs of Alabama. And we're just a working group. Again, we're just regular kind of hometown local organizers. And we know that we get more done and we get it done better when we work together and when we share ideas and resources. So that's what we do. Everybody is welcome to take part in our meetings and our sessions. And so I would love for everybody to drop your email and your phone number in the chat if I don't have them already. And we'll be in touch, and hopefully we can all learn from each other and cooperate in the future, and especially next year, which is a big year. Okay, well, so tonight for Alabama Blue School, we have the pleasure and privilege to have Tom Miro, who is the executive director of the Alabama Democratic Party, here with us. And Tom is going to talk to us about whatever he wants to talk about. We're ready to hear what he has to say. Tom has so much experience with campaigns, also with community organizing, which is what all of us are really focused on and committed to. So we're going to learn a little bit about the best ways that local organizations can support and work with campaigns. So welcome, Tom, and take it, run with it. We're listening.
Fantastic. Well, thanks so much, Emily. As always, forever grateful for programs like this to make sure that activists are engaged and continuing to learn from each other. It's how I learned everything that I know is from working with other pros and comparing things that worked and things that didn't. So I really appreciate the opportunity to hop on here. Like you said, I just put together a quick deck to talk a little bit about what in this deck, it's specifically about county parties, but I think it can apply to a lot of other community action organizations as well. The best ways in which I've found county parties can integrate with campaigns when it comes into cycle season. And so what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to share my screen. And then I'm going to kind of go through the deck, if that's okay. So let me see here. Beautiful. Please ignore all of my open tabs. It's fine. I'm doing great. Mental health is so important right now, and I'm doing a fantastic time. So perfect. As soon as we load, here we go. So obviously, this is a presentation that I put together with the Alabama Democratic Party, and this will be about county party campaign integration. So we're going to talk a little bit about how county parties can best help their candidates. So when we go through here, what you're going to see is that the themes are going to be pretty similar, but integration it can be different depending on the size of the campaigns that you're working with. So we're going to talk through a little bit about the small campaign integration, what that looks like for county parties and community organizations. We can talk a little bit about what large campaign integration looks like, things like congressionals, things like statewide campaigns. We're going to talk about what it means to set expectations with your organizations as well, going into the campaign cycle. We're going to talk about what your next steps can be to make sure that your organization is prepared. And then finally, I'll be able to field some questions, dive into a little bit of my experience. When we think about campaign integration, some of the things that I really want us to start thinking about immediately are two primary questions. The first one is, what is the capacity of my organization? And then what is the capacity of the campaign that I'm working with? So that can mean a lot of different things. So when we're going through these questions, I want us to think about how many active volunteers my county party is pulling together at any given time. That can be a lot of different things for a lot of different counties, right? Active volunteers could be the number of folks that come to your monthly meetings. It could be, if you have a robust number of those, the number of folks who participate in actions with the campaign. If you have a larger, something that we call in the campaign space, bullpen of folks who are maybe not consistently coming to events or to monthly meetings, but they're there when you need to call upon them. So examining what your membership really looks like. The next thing that I would look at is how robust is my fundraising as a county party. This is going to be a huge deal, especially when we start talking about the ways you integrate small campaigns who will need a little bit more of that fundraising lift compared to our larger, more robust campaign structures like congressionals and like statewide campaigns. Is a major product of yours making sure that you're bringing in cash? It's always going to be something for every county party, but how successful are you at that project, and will you be able to add value to a campaign rather than focusing on making sure that you're getting your contributions up as well? And then finally, when we look at the membership, we want to see how many action folks we've got. We all understand that a lot of folks come to the county party structure and community organizing groups from different places. And folks get different things out of them. But one of the things that we like to get from our members is actions. Specifically,
Hey, Tom, are we supposed to be seeing slides? Because we're seeing no slides right now.
Are you not seeing slides?
Nope, we're not. We haven't been for the last 2 or 3 minutes, and nobody's been willing to speak up. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. No, I appreciate your courage and bravery. Thank you so much. Let me see if I can. Screen sharing is paused. Well, that would explain it, wouldn't it? I don't know how to. I'm going to stop sharing and then try sharing again. Oh my God, I can't believe you guys just let me just go on ridiculous.
We just didn't know, man. We were just all like, yeah.
We're all just. I was like, oh well, yeah, this is good, I guess. Would have been better with a presentation, but
It's so
what you were
clear.
saying didn't need slides, to be
Yeah, that's
honest.
right,
It's
exactly.
so clear.
Yeah, it didn't need slides. So we weren't sure if the slides were coming later or not. So it's all good.
Aha, there we go.
Okay. All right, now I'm gonna try again. Slideshow. I'm screen sharing still, right? And my screen share is paused. Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted to have happen. Okay. I'm going to stop sharing again. We're going to see, like I said, what did I tell you, Emily? It's been a minute since I've done this. Okay.
Yeah. Tom, if you want, you can email or otherwise share the presentation with me and I can try to.
Sure, yeah.
Or do you know what's happening?
I don't know what's happening, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I can. It seems to be when I enter full screen presentation mode, I lose the share.
Okay. Well, maybe just leave it in a window.
Yeah, I can do that as well. So let's try it one more time. And
on my end, it says that the host has disabled participant screen sharing.
all right, can you guys see this?
Tom's
Yes.
the co-host, so we're all good.
Are we good here? Can you guys see?
Yes.
Beautiful. Okay, so we were here. So how do we measure capacity? So we wanted, like I said, we want to talk about the number of members that we have at any given time, how deep our bullpen is of irregular attendees. We want to talk about how robust our fundraising is as an organization, and whether that's something that we need to focus on as an organization, or whether we can use amplify the work that a campaign is doing, and then how many action volunteers that we have. So we want to look at the amount of folks who will go out and knock doors, make phone calls, We also want to examine whether we have a brick and mortar that we can offer to these campaigns. It's a huge lift and allows them to spread their message closer and closer to their target audiences. And then also, we want to take a look at what the membership looks like for spare time. Sometimes you'll have young professionals who will be, pressed for time and won't be able to contribute the way some retired members might be able to. We want to take a look at all of the things that we can offer and to really know our membership before we can really commit to what we can provide to the campaigns. And then when we want to look at the campaigns, we want to check out the size of these campaigns, right? What is the scale of this? Am I working with a governor's race? Am I working with a congressional race? State House, City Council, what is the size of this? What is the scope of their campaign and how many staffers do they have? We also want to look at the roles of those particular staffers, right? So if a campaign is focusing a lot on grassroots organizing, for example, and they've invested a lot in professional organizers, maybe they'll need more help in the fundraising aspect or the communications aspect. Or vice versa. If they have fundraisers and comms folks, but they don't have field, how can we step in to make sure that we're also hitting those direct voter contact goals? Those are all things that we'll want to examine while we're figuring out how best to integrate with these campaigns. So making sure our capacities and capabilities and the campaign's needs coalesce is the critical first step in figuring out how best you can integrate with them. But from there, let's talk about how we integrate with small campaigns. So small campaigns like state house and county commission races will likely need more help and in more diverse ways than some of the larger campaigns. So they're going to need a lot of help with fundraising. They're going to need some help with messaging, and they're definitely going to need help with direct voter contact. So fundraising. Small campaigns often have low startup capital, and they don't really benefit the same way parties do from a permanent fundraising infrastructure that we have. We're an organization that exists year in and year out. We're like in Alabama, we don't have campaigns going every single year the same way folks in Virginia do, for example. So as organizations, county parties are more permanent and therefore have generally deeper ties to their community and better connections with donors than these campaigns that come in and come out every on the cyclical basis. So one of the ways that we can really help out our down ticket races is by hosting fundraisers for them with contributions that'll go directly to those campaigns. Or putting the finance contact for those campaigns in contact with some of your donors as well. That would be a massive help initially in helping them get started. This can also look like purchasing materials or other types of resources for campaigns as well. And that doesn't have to be like buying their lid or buying their yard signs. It can also be making sure that they've got printer paper, toner ink. All of these things add up, especially when you're talking about a small campaign. So any material advantage that you can help with will add tremendous amount of value to these down ticket races. As with every campaign, messaging is critical, especially to these smaller races. So oftentimes smaller campaigns, they have a voice and they have an idea that they'd like to pass on to voters, but they don't have the permanence of the institution that county parties have to offer. County parties, like I said, they don't come in on a cyclical basis. They exist throughout the course of time, which means that they have a persistent social media presence, which many of you know, in order to organically grow, you need to be able to consistently post and have an existing presence for a very long time. That's something that, generally speaking, campaigns cannot provide. And you'll also be closer to the community than a impermanent organization like a campaign. So you may have more contacts with traditional media as well. Using the county party socials, not only to amplify the messages of your specific down ticket campaign, but create cohesive and complementary messages, adds to that campaign's audience. And it also adds to that campaign the impression of institutional support. the understanding that they're committed to the same mission that the county party is, and that together you're approaching this opportunity to elect a Democrat. And finally, and always, in my opinion, most importantly, as a field organizer by trade and training, they're going to need help with direct voter contact. So in my opinion, direct voter contact is how Democrats win elections, and assisting smaller campaigns with getting their message out directly to voters. It's going to be a critical piece of how we ensure success at the ballot box. But this also means we'll need to make our members available to walk the campaign's turfs, to use the campaign's lit, and to make campaign dials, data that will go to the campaign so that they can keep track of just how well they're progressing through their universes. But making sure that our members are available and ready to take on that task will allow these smaller campaigns immediate access to a robust set of volunteers to help them reach their field goals, which is something that I think is very important. Now, we're going to talk about the same three general aspects, right? Finance, comms, and direct voter contact, but this time with larger campaigns. And the tasks will be similar, but not the same. So we'll go through here, and we'll see that we're going to be, instead of helping, we're going to be augmenting the work that's already done for both fundraising and for messaging. And I'll talk a little bit more about how that's a different interpretation here. But overall, these larger campaigns, like these Congress campaigns and these statewide, like governors and senators, they'll likely need help with direct voter contact, much more than they're going to need help standing up messaging and fundraising operations. So let's talk about what that looks like for county parties. Like I said, large campaigns are going to have the staff and infrastructure to run their own grassroots fundraising campaigns and stand up their own events. But being open to augmenting the work that they're doing by knowing your membership and knowing your donors, to add names of folks that will give but haven't been reached out to yet, because as robust as a fundraising operation can be, there's always going to be somebody that doesn't get the phone call or the email for the contribution. You'll know your members better than these campaigns will, and you'll be able to connect them with the finance teams with these larger campaigns. But it can also look like hosting lower bar events, right? Things that have a low barrier of entry. I'm talking coffee socials, pizza parties, things that get people that would never have thought to come into your office the opportunity to write their name, email, and phone number down, and then passing those hot leads straight onto a finance or field team member so they can be reached out to as soon as possible once they've expressed interest in getting involved with Democratic politics. We're also going to look at augmenting messaging. And again, this is going to be a little bit different for these larger races, because they're going to have much more of a robust media presence, both in terms of contacts with traditional media, but also in a social media presence as well. So the first thing that I would be doing if I was a county party leadership would be in a constant conversation, if I can be, with the communication staff for these larger campaigns. We want to make sure that the messages that we're sharing are the ones that they want to be seen when talking about their candidates. When it comes to augmenting the messages for these larger candidates, we're going to have very, very strict language around how they're engaging with issues. Always the best course of action, if you're in doubt, is to like, comment, and share their posts. That way, you're getting their exact message straight from them to as many people as possible, and not leaving a room up for interpretation on your comms folks as well. And then finally, this is the biggest thing, is you're going to own DVC rather than helping out with this. So major campaigns, things like congressionals, governors, senators, they're going to have a lot higher direct voter contact goals compared to the county commission and the state house races. That's where you're going to step up in the biggest way. it's critical that county parties are able to alleviate as much of the work around direct voter contact as possible, whether that includes not only rank and file organization members, but leadership knocking doors every weekend, or having members do some volunteer recruitment of their own. Everyone can chip in here, because this is one of the biggest time commitments that these large campaigns expend on the campaign trail. So we've talked a little bit about how we can help, but it's also about resetting expectations for what it means to be a county party member when we get into the election cycle. So these are some tenets that I've used when I've been managing organizers, and I think it's a great message to pass on to members of county parties as we're starting to look toward the campaign cycle. The first one is no one is too big to take out the trash. The second is nobody belongs here more than you. And the third is nobody wins unless everybody wins. So for no one's too big to take out the trash. It's as simple as this. Regardless of the size of the campaign and regardless of the size of the county party, every member needs to be up for any task that the campaign needs at a given time. Not only does this create a culture of service, but it sets a standard for how you're going to engage with campaigns for the rest of the cycle. No one belongs here more than you. Campaigns are run and won by bringing people in. Keeping an open mind and making room at the table for new folks is how we not only grow a campaign and make sure that we're successful at the ballot box, but it creates new regular members to your county parties. If we do our jobs right, if we make them feel at home here, we now have a new person that would have never come if it hadn't been for this candidate. And then nobody wins unless everybody wins. It's incumbent on us, especially as county parties, as the main point of contact for our geographic location and a bunch of different campaigns. It's incumbent on us to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts as we're trying to talk to as many Democrats about our messages as possible. So making sure that we're bringing folks in for the attraction of top ticket candidates and then getting them to knock doors with the down tickets as well. Make sure that we're able to capitalize on the excitement that these congressionals and these governors and Senate candidates can bring. And we're delivering that excitement to some of the maybe less engaging or less attractive candidates that we also need to make sure that we're winning for in November. So like I said, when we talk about no one's too big to take out the trash, buying into the least glamorous jobs for our candidates from top to bottom in our county parties is an expectation that we have to set. And this is important as leaders that we know, rank and file members will notice if we're asking them to go out and knock doors, and then we send our officers to fundraisers, right? We have to live our examples and be willing to go out and knock doors ourselves as leaders of county parties and organizations like this. But when we do that, we increase the investment of our members, and we ensure that we're doing the most important tasks to help ensure that our Democratic candidates are winning at the ballot box. No one belongs here more than you. Again, campaign cycles open up opportunities for us to expand our reach past what we can do in non-cycle years. But we can only bring them in if we're open to having new people. Especially in a lot of some smaller counties. These are insular communities that you bring together. The Democrats that but we have to be sure that if somebody comes and wants to engage with our candidates, that we make a spot for them, especially in the case of folks who are coming from non-traditional Democratic backgrounds. Maybe they're a one-issue voter and the Democratic candidate has their issue. Bring them in, let them know that we have a big tent and everybody was a member of a Democratic Party for the first time before. And then finally, nobody wins unless everybody wins. As I talked about, there are going to be big races that bring a lot of excitement to your members. Those will usually be the congressionals and the governors and the presidential, for example. And that's great. We love to have new people. But we also need to make sure that we're communicating to these new folks who come in the door for these presidentials, for these congressional candidates, that the folks that are affecting their day-to-day lives are also on the ballot and they've never heard of them before. They're their county commission candidate. They're their state house representative that's running in a special election. They're all of these people that they didn't come into the office for, but also need their help. Making sure that we mobilize around the excitement of these big ticket candidates is very, very important, and because we want to make sure that we're bringing everybody along with us when we win in November. So, how do we prepare for this cycle and the massive ramp up in the work that we need to do? The answer is that it's tough, right? In an off-cycle year like 2023, we generally don't have a lot to offer to our members as far as actions go. And we also need to be cautious that we don't want to exhaust them too, right? Like having them go out and knock every single weekend in an off-cycle year, you're gonna exhaust your membership. But especially as we get toward this time of the year, I think that now is the right opportunity to start ramping up our campaign tasks. And that is early, regularly. So we want people to be able to replicate this, have it become a learned habit to come out and knock doors or make phone calls. But we also want to make sure that we're giving plenty of rest in between. It is not November of 2024. It is not October of 2024. We don't need to exhaust our members right now. We just need to shake off the rust and make sure that we're ready to hit the ground running once the cycle starts. So beginning recruitment calls one night a week right now, or start Canvas trainings only one night a week right now, will ensure that our members know what they have to do and feel confident in their abilities when the nominees come knocking and start asking your county parties for help. At the end of the day, practice makes perfect, and that's especially true on the campaign trail. So what are the next steps for organizations like yours? Like, what do we do here? The answer is train, train, train. We can practice canvassing right now. We can practice our Canvas trainings right now. We can prepare our donor lists for our candidates before they come in. We can practice our volunteer recruitment. We can start hosting those low bar events, and we can prepare our members for the massive step up in the work that we need to do on the campaign trail. So practice canvassing. Every campaign is going to need you to knock on some doors and to recruit some canvassers. You'll be a campaign's best resource on their first day in your office. So practice knocking doors now. Start using Minivan, and so that when candidates come through, your members will be up to date on all the tech and know the places that they're going to be knocking. Let's start practicing our canvassing trainings. Training canvassers will be an immense value add to campaigns, especially the larger ones, because training takes up a lot of professional organizers' times. Making sure that your team knows how to troubleshoot new Minivan users and talk them through entering data will mean that the only thing that your team needs to learn when a campaign comes knocking is what the script is. Prepare your donor lists. We want to have that data ready to go. So the second a candidate comes in, especially those down ticket candidates, you're able to hand them a set of hot leads so that they can get a quick influx of cash. But it's also a way for them to create a base and a sustainable donor environment for themselves over the course of the cycle. If you're able to hand them a list of names and say, this is your best shot to get started, they're going to be able to make much more efficient donor calls, have much deeper resources than they would have been able to if they were creating their own fundraising list from scratch. We're going to practice our volunteer recruitment. Now, this is the part where we'll probably need to have another training just on our volunteer recruitment strategies and tactics. But volunteer recruitment is a massive, massive need for smaller campaigns, but it'll also help out your larger ones too. So making sure that your team is using strong hard asks and waterfall asks, that you're learning how to ask through no's and yeses, will help to equip your county party not only with skills that'll deliver for the campaign that you're working with, but these are skills that are transferable to create a more lasting and sustainable infrastructure and membership recruitment that'll continue throughout the course of the county party's existence. we want to host some low bar events too, right? Like our opportunity as the county party is to not be tied to one candidate or another, especially right now, but to be able to demystify the Democratic Party as a whole, and to talk about our candidates writ large. It'll be a tremendous opportunity for you because you'll be able to have these low barrier of entry, not high stakes events that'll bring more people in. And once you capture that information, these attendees who come in for pizza and to learn more about what it means to be a Democrat, once you capture the information about who they are, where they live, how they want to get involved, you have a bunch of hot leads that you can reach out to and your membership can reach out to day one once the cycle begins in earnest. And then finally, if it'll change over, we'll get to prepare our membership and get ready to go and make sure that we're mentally setting the expectation. As we talked about throughout the course of this presentation, campaigning represents a massive, massive step up in commitment from our membership as county parties specifically and as grassroots organizations more broadly. As leaders, we need to make sure that we're level setting with our members to let them know that this is going to be a lot more intense than the down cycle organizing that we're used to. But we need to also make sure that we're being as open as possible about how important the work is that we're doing, and acknowledge that this investment from ourselves as leaders is an opportunity to build trust and bring folks in on our team to let them know that we're going to be right there beside them every single step of the way. So we talked a little bit about all of that stuff, and I talked very briefly on what these integration questions can be, but I want to turn it over to y'all, if that's all right, to see if you have any questions for me, because I know I threw a lot of information and a lot of my very biased impressions about what I think county parties can do to help out campaigns. But there were a lot of things in there, and I want to make sure that anybody who has questions feels comfortable asking them in this space. And absolutely nothing's off limits. If there's anything that you want to go back over or anything like that, just let me know. I'll be happy to do it.
Marcia, you had a couple of questions in the chat. Marcia? So,
I
yeah,
think
go ahead.
he answered the first question during his talk, but the second one was about how I've understood or seen people divide up some of the messaging for direct voter contact.
Sure.
That the campaign was sort of in charge of the persuasion types of messaging, and the rank and file county volunteers sort of reached out to maybe inactive Democrats or active Democrats to try to activate them. And I was wondering if if that's used sometimes or not all the time, or is that a legit dichotomy or what?
Yeah, I mean, so you're engaging with so in field work, you're talking about our two major universes, right? You got your persuasion universe, and then you got your mobilization universe. And those are the folks that you're talking about. Those maybe like we call them low mods, or low or moderate propensity voters. So that is definitely a strategy to use, right? And I think it's just I think there's a logic to it. You know, staff members have been having more of these conversations than volunteers have. So the chances of them being better equipped to engage in a persuasion conversation is pretty high. At the same time, I've also seen these done instead of by dividing the workforce that you have available, also by dividing the campaign by time. So training your volunteers and your staffers to do these persuasion conversations earlier on in the cycle, because what that then does is give you an opportunity to see, in my persuasion universe of folks that I think might be interested in, might not be traditional Democrats or something like that, but are interested in getting involved with my candidate. What that gives you is an opportunity to see if they're open to it identify them as supporters, and then if you do a timed switch in universes, then you get to talk to them one more time, because they'll be populated into your mobilization universe. So you get another combo with that voter again to make double sure that this persuasion person, you're actually coming along for the ride with this campaign, right? So I think that there are valid reasons to do both. So on most major statewide campaigns, they usually divide it by time rather than by, staff versus volunteer base. But I can see how a smaller campaign might be interested in doing that as well.
I've never seen a county do what you're saying. I've only seen campaigns do that. So
Yeah.
I don't know exactly how to respond, how to process that answer right
Sure.
this second. But that's okay. I can think about it some more.
Yeah, and I think if I'm being honest, I think that creating a persuasion universe is not an easy thing to do, right? But I think that especially in down ticket years, doing some persuasion knocks for a county party might be an interesting experiment, right? See if we can separate ourselves from candidates, especially in Alabama in presidential cycles. That can be a very polarizing thing. To be knocking for particular candidates in a persuasion universe. But strip those candidates away from the conversations here and just have a person-to-person conversation about why you're knocking for Shelby County Democrats, for example, and see where that goes. See if there's more support for the party if we separate it out from these big names. I think that could be fun and interesting. But yeah, I don't think I've ever seen like you said, a countywide program divide up their universe based on time rather than based on staff. But I've only been so many places, right? So and everybody does things a little bit differently.
Yeah. Okay.
I had a question.
Yeah.
You talked about strong hard asks and waterfall asks.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on those?
Yeah. So I'll pull it back up too, I think. Is that it? Is it still? Yeah, there it is. So yeah, we have in the professional organizing sphere, we have a lot of different tools that we use to make sure that every single conversation that we have is the most effective conversation for what we were trying to get out of it. So hard asks are a tool that organizers on electoral campaigns learn and are coached on every single night when they make phone calls. It's something that I did every single evening with my organizers during call time as well. But a hard ask is essentially when you ask somebody for something and through strategic language, you cut off their ability to say no to you. And it sounds bad, but we wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't effective, right? So an example of a hard ask, there are a few major steps involved. The one is that you underline the urgency of the moment, like why are you making the call? And then you provide closed options rather than an open-ended question. And then something that I also do is when I make a hard ask, I do identity labeling, which is where I tell them what I believe them to be, because people want to fulfill a preconceived notion that you have of them in their head. So if I'm making a soft ask would be, hey, Emily, I know it's a lot to ask, but this election's kind of important. Do you think you can come out and knock some doors with us sometime? That's soft, right? You don't get the urgency of the moment. I didn't tell you that I know how committed you are to electing Democrats. And I didn't ask you for a specific time. Like, could you come down at some point? Like, when is some point? What is that? That doesn't mean anything. A hard ask would be, hey, Emily, my name's Tom, and I'm an organizer with Alabama's 2nd Congressional District. We're working to elect a Democrat in this brand new district, and it's so important that we deliver. I'm calling you because I know you're a committed Democrat, and we have canvas launches every single weekend. So between Saturday and Sunday, which of those works better for you to come down and help us out? I've closed off my options now. You don't have the option of, I don't know, just Saturday or Sunday is the option. If you can't make those, you'll tell me and I'll ask you for a different thing. Oh, no worries. You can't make Saturday or Sunday. We also have door knocking every single weekday. Our most popular options are Tuesday and Thursday. Which of those works better for you? Thursday is the soccer game. I completely understand that. You can't miss it. We also have some opportunities on Wednesday. Wednesday work best for you? Great. So we always have an option and an answer. And that was me asking through, continuing to ask through no's, right? You kept telling me no, you weren't available to do the weekend. Great. I had options for Tuesday and Thursday. You said no to that. Great. I had an option for Wednesday. I always asked through the no's. So those are all elements of organizing that are drilled into organizers on these campaigns to make sure that every conversation, because y'all have made direct voter contact and volunteer recruitment calls before, right? How many conversations do you have when you make 10 dials, Emily? How many conversations?
2, maybe.
Yeah. So we want the most out of those conversations, right? We don't want to talk to somebody and not get a commitment, especially when we know that we have to deliver for our voters. So that's why we use this very specific and very strong language, because we don't know when the last time we're going to talk to somebody is on the phone again, right? Every time we talk to somebody, maybe the last opportunity we have. So we gotta give our best ask every single time to bring them into the door. So those are just a couple, and listen, there are trainings on hard asks and waterfalls, and asking through the no's, and probably the hardest thing, asking through the yeses, that we could go into in more detail. But those are just a few things that you can equip your membership with. But if we think about it as a broader skill set, right? These are things that you learn and you don't forget how to do them. And this is transferable now, not just from the campaign cycle, but when you start saying, man, we could really use some more numbers at our next meeting. Now I have that skill set of, I know the hard ask. I know how to ask through a no. I know how to ask through a yes. I know how to waterfall my ask to get a yes and then ask for the next thing. Those are all things that those are skills that you'll learn, put into practice on the campaign trail, but then you'll have them for the rest of your life, and you'll be able to use them to continue to create a more sustainable and more robust organization that you can grow, because your members all have this skill and are able to employ it when they're not only on the phone, but at the grocery store. Like once you train in the hard ask, you'll find yourself slipping into it on accident. Like you will close off those options and say, between Saturday and Sunday, does morning or evening work better for you? Like those things will just become practice for you, and you'll be shocked at how many more commitments you'll get because of it.
Is that why nobody wants to be my friend anymore? Because I'm always just asking them to do stuff. They see me.
Listen, everybody wants to be your friend. That's why I'm here.
So the waterfall ask is when you get a yes, and then you ask for, you sort of see what else you.
Yeah. So the waterfall is essentially, you get a yes for one thing and you ask for a different thing, right? So if I make a phone call to you and I say, hey, Emily, we're knocking doors between Saturday and Sunday, which works better for you? You say Saturday. I say, great. We also have a watch party for our first debate going on here. And I know how committed you are. You just signed up to go knock doors for some on some random person's door. I know you're committed to this. Can I put you down here for our watch party? And we'll give you a ring just to make sure that time still works for you. I know it's a hectic schedule. I'll hold a spot for you. There are all these strategic pieces of how we ask for things from folks that'll increase their likelihood to show up. But a waterfall is like, once you get a yes for one thing, you immediately go for the next yes. And then asking through the yeses is the hardest part of all. And this comes usually in the GOTV cycle, when you need every single shift from every single person. And this is something that, not to toot my own horn, I got really good at in Arizona, because I had such a robust set of volunteers. I had like 143 different volunteers complete shifts for me while I was in this small sliver of Scottsdale west of the 105. And I called all of them, every single one, anybody who had ever signed up for a shift and flaked every time, everybody who was a rock star volunteer for me, and everybody who completed one shift and disappeared, I called every single one of them and I was like, hey, I'm going to ask you for a bunch of stuff right now. And I know you're going to do it because we need to get over the hump. We need to elect Joe Biden and we need to elect Mark Kelly. So we've got a phone bank scheduled every single weekend and every single weekday from now till election day. So I'm going to ask you, can I put you down here for 2 phone bank shifts every single weekend? And I'll say, you know what? Yeah, I can do it. And I was like, great, because I also need a 1 weekday phone bank shift from you as well. So I just got that yes for a huge commitment. 2 phone bank shifts every weekend from now to election day. And I said, you know what? That's not enough. I need more. Can you do one more thing? Ask through the yes, and because psychologically, once somebody says yes to you once, they'll want to say yes to you more times. And so capitalizing on that momentum as soon as you get it, it feels like a lot, but people will tell you when once you hit to the point where they're done. Like they'll say no, but it's incumbent on us to use every strategy as we can to get those yeses while we can get them. So that's go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, can you hear me? I think something
Yep.
that you've mentioned a couple of times, and this is sort of when we're talking about how county organizations, and you really stress this, and I'm glad you stressed it. So we're here all the time. We're here
Yes.
in the off years when it's
Yes.
not get out the vote, last
Yes.
4 days before. And so we have, we do have to kind of not put people off and kind of not be the person who's always doing the waterfall ask.
Yes.
But
Yep.
you've given us so many tools of things that we can be preparing and things we can be setting up all year long, 12 months a year, so that when it comes time, we can be managing expectations with our members. We can be setting new expectations for how we're going to work. We're
Yeah.
handing lists over to candidates and
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And again, like we're talking about we have to acknowledge, like you said, there is a difference between being a county party and being a campaign, necessarily so, right? Like the beautiful thing and the stressful thing about campaigns is that they start and they end. County parties don't have the luxury of being able to end. We have to be sustainable. We have to be organic. We have to continue to exist in communities, and we can't burn out our folks, not only our members, but the folks that we're reaching out to as well. So when you're looking at like ways that you can not only practice your hard ask and things like that, you don't have to use your hard ask when you're recruiting for every single monthly meeting, right? You can for your members, you can save a hard ask training and practice for a phone bank around a quarterly event. Say you have a gala or something where you'll be able to raise funds for your campaign. That is a great opportunity to bring in your phone bank team who's practiced their hard ask and say, all right, this event is in 3 months. We're going to do 1 phone bank a week to try to get there. That way you're not slamming people's phone lines. You're giving everybody some time to breathe. You're gamifying it for your team. They want to come in, they want to compete and build for this thing. But you're also not exhausting them, right? Like making 200 dials is a lot. And that was the floor, not the ceiling, when I was on Bashir's campaign in Kentucky. But that was every night. They were doing 200 dials a night to make sure that they were hitting the metrics that we needed to be successful. That's not something that you have to do as a county party, right? You don't have to you're not setting that standard. You're building for your fundraising event, or you're building for maybe, let's say, you get at a county party meeting 2 months down the line, you have a great speaker that you want to really show out for. You can build for that too, and not with like the urgency of doing these asks every single night, but making it like a weekly thing to try to build up those RSVPs and make sure that when the speaker does come in, you have a bigger crowd than you're usually used to. So things like that, right? It is very important though that we're not exhausting ourselves or the folks that we're reaching out to when we're practicing these critical skills.
Thank you. Do we have any more questions? Go
I
ahead.
had kind of a open-ended question. It might not fit this talk precisely, but how do you convince people in counties that have very little to no representation as far as the Democratic base that there's value in organizing under the Democratic Party? Like, for example, the county I grew up in, no Democrats qualified in the last election cycle at all. So
Yeah.
people have one party to pick from. And in general, in a lot of cases, there's no opposition even in the primary. So
Yeah.
I find myself sometimes in a difficult position trying to convince people, hey, the Democratic Party is a tool to help make your community better, but they've never known it or seen it. So how do you start even before you think about an election, convincing people of that?
Yeah, so like that's such a tough position to be in, right? Because the standard answer, right, is in a lot of places where it's difficult to get excitement in and around Democrats. You'll at least be able to point to one down ticket Democrat that you can pull away from big D and big R party politics and say, but you know this person because they're a friend or neighbor, right? But when you have a county that has that inactive of elected officials in on the Democratic side of the aisle, it creates a question of like where do I even begin to engage somebody with getting involved whatsoever? So I think the first one there is I would sit back and I would think about what are the things that are benefiting this community and how have the Democrats been able to do that? And just strip it down and find one thing, just one thing. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. You don't need to be a policy expert. Find one thing. For me, it would be, and this is just like, I would drop this in basically anywhere where Democrats haven't run countywide, is rural broadband. That'll be like for places where Democrats haven't run countywide and places that need rural broadband, that Venn diagram is going to be pretty circular. So I'll know that is a safe bet to go in and talk just about an issue, and I'll engage with that, and I'll say, isn't it great that Governor Ivey is bringing rural broadband to, I don't know, Marengo County? It's fantastic. Well, actually, Governor Ivey has activated the program, but the funds for that came from the infrastructure bill that the Democrats were able to pass. And I know, listen, it's Democrats, right? But this is something that's good for the community, and it frees up the cash for our state to deliver for our people. And I would first just find an issue, a simple issue, one that has tangible impact for folks. Stick with that, and then go in and talk about how it's being implemented in the state, and just very lightly tie on the fact that Democrats were the ones who got it done. And then you don't need to have a full on policy debate with somebody about this. You're like, yeah, well, we're not getting doors out here in the 4th congressional district, and we've got this new rural broadband now, but sure would have been nice if our U.S. House rep here had voted for it. He didn't, because he's a Republican, but we still ended up getting that amazing resource because of the Democrats, which I'm really excited about. It's going to help out kids in this rural area right now, especially in the post-COVID era, as we've gotten into the virtual schooling. Like, that'll be a real help, don't you think? And that's it, right? Like, when we're talking about how we engage there, we have to know that the conversations that we're having are not going to create a one-to-one tangible vote change. This is about an entire culture shift that we're trying to engage with in those spaces, and knowing that we do that over the course of multiple conversations with people. Hence, like I said, tying back to what we said with Marcia, with the timed persuasion versus timed mobilization, the more conversations we have with the same person, the more opportunity we're going to be able to bring them over to our side, right? So just taking a bite of the elephant one bite at a time. We don't need to convert every single person to the Democratic Party in every single conversation. It's impossible for us to do, and it's an unfair standard to hold ourselves to. We need to know what we're dealing with, be disciplined in our messaging when we talk about it, and then take our wins where we can. If you get out of a conversation with somebody in Cullman County where they say that rural broadband is good, and you were able to say that Democrats did it and not get screamed at, that's a win for me. I'm out, like that's great. I did it. We need to be able to say that that's okay. We made it out of a conversation without getting cursed at. That's a win for me. And just, resetting our expectations with what that means, knowing that this is a decade-long process to get to a place where places like that are competitive again.
Thanks for that question, Chris.
Yes, great question, Chris, because that's tough, and I found myself in places like that in Kentucky. I certainly found myself in places like that in Kansas, where, Kansas is such an interesting, weird state where they've elected more Democratic governors than Florida, and it's statistically the hardest place for federal Democrats to get elected. They haven't elected a Democrat to the Senate since the 30s. So very, very weird state. So being able to engage in those ways, find your wins, take them, and just have that nugget in the back of their mind, right? They had a conversation with somebody knocking doors for Democrats. They said the Democrats did this good thing, and that's it. Didn't ask them for their vote there. I just set it and forget it. Let them noodle on a little bit, So yeah.
Thank you for that. Any other questions from anyone? Got about 4 minutes left before we wrap it up.
Well, what I'm going to do if we have any more questions while we're sitting there, here's my contact information, everybody. This is my email address, goes straight to me. And this is my cell number as well. This is going on YouTube. Oh, great. Well, now it's I'm probably fine with it. But this is my contact information. Reach out anytime. I'd be happy to be a resource for y'all. Again, these things are complex in some ways, and sometimes a little too simple. So maybe we'll need to expand on some of the things that we talked about. That's okay too. I'm happy to talk it out. This is my bread and butter. This is I love organizing. It's the thing that I enjoy the most in the world. And I'm happy to answer questions if y'all want to continue to grow in that space. It'd be so great to see.
Hey, Emily, before we go, I want to make sure everybody saw in the chat that we're 1 month from tonight. Jefferson County Dems are hosting a big holiday party. So hope a lot of y'all will show up. We're gonna have Josh Raby. Some of y'all know Josh is gonna play Santa Claus. We're gonna have a DJ. We're gonna have food. We're gonna have drinks. Should be a great time. I hope Big John Underwood will show up. We're offering all candidates. We're not asking candidates to pay for tables. We're providing them spots. So the candidates will not be paying for this event. The county party is paying for this event and some of our donors. And so we're going to let candidates come and have tables to meet folks, and as many Jeffco candidates and non-Jeffco candidates as want to be there, they're all welcome.
That is fantastic.
Love it.
Everybody.
All right. Oh, right, Richard, that's great. I see Big John and you were planning to come. That's great. I love to see y'all.
Well, thanks so much.
We'll get everything out. We'll get invitations out via Facebook and email and stuff like that over the next couple weeks.
Great. And we'll be sure to share that with as many people.
Emily, I think you're muted.
Oh, am I muted?
Yes. No.
I just have a quiet voice. Sorry. Can you hear me? Okay, everybody, let's all say thanks to Tom. Give him a good old Zoom round of applause. Thanks so much, Tom. I know that I'm coming away with 2 or 3 very concrete, ideas that we're going to put in place here in Lee County, which is where I am. And I hope the rest of you have gotten some good action items from this presentation. We're going to be putting this recording up on YouTube. So if any of you know people in your local organizations that you think would like to see this, I'll be sharing the link after this. If I don't have your email address, please drop it in the chat real quick. And
Emily,
yes.
I have one thing. Tomorrow, Marcia and a number of us are going to go to a precinct chair meeting with the traindemocrats.org. It's in the Facebook for UDeKalb. So you can sign up for that, and we're doing it, going to that meeting. And then right afterward, we are having a Alabama specific conversation, and the Zoom link for that is also on UDeKalb Facebook. So if anybody wants to go to the training tomorrow about how to set up precinct chairs and what precinct chairs can be doing, join us, right, Marcia?
Was that tomorrow or was it Thursday? I thought it was Thursday,
No, it's on Wednesday, tomorrow at noon,
tomorrow at noon. Okay.
tomorrow at noon. And then the Alabama specific Zoom will follow immediately at 1:30. Yep, should be fun.
Fantastic.
So everybody, please join us.
Okay. Yeah, that's fantastic. I think my favorite slide of yours, Tom, was just train, train, train. I think it's true. The games are won in the off season. So.
Oh, that's absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, if you guys had stepped into my field office in Lexington, after every single contact, every single time that one of my organizers got off the phone with somebody, I would sit down and be like, what did you do well? What could you do better? Talk me through it. What was that conversation like? Like, I was like, you have to continue to be constantly thinking about, oh, I missed this opportunity to identity label. I didn't tell them that I know that they're a committed Democrat. I could have done that. Great. Now you're thinking about the next time, but like it's constantly training. It's constantly coaching. It's constantly pushing yourself to be better. And then by the end of the campaign cycle, you're rattling off waterfalled hard asks in your sleep. So it's amazing.
Well, I'm in. I'm ready. Let's get
Perfect.
this
I love
done,
it.
everybody. Ooh, this is getting us ready for next year.
Right.
Thanks again to all of you. I'm gonna pause the recording.